When you're thinking about bricks, you're thinking Lego. However, you may not know that all of patents for brick designs Lego had already expired, some back in the 70s. What you may have heard though is there are plenty of so-called Lego clone companies which are selling their own brick building sets. Some have their own original designs, they are producing legally, ethically, and even have some licensed sets of their own. For example, these are Kobe or Mega Construct. And the others are shamelessly knocking off Lego designs, stealing fun designs and producing with no regard to copyright or intellectual property whatsoever, like infamous Lepin or Lele. For many people deciding which brick building construction products to buy, the number one factor will not be the brand's name, but the price. And any non-Lego set will always be cheaper than a genuine Lego product. But cheap doesn't always have to mean bad. Among these ethical Lego alternatives, you may find this massive and pretty botanical garden produced by Zero, a small toy company based in Hong Kong, and this model was originally a mock designed by a team of builders known as Brick Police. Last year, another Lego clone company, Mold King, acquired rights to this model from the designer, and then Zero sub-licensed it from Mold King. This set contains of over 2,137 pieces and a complementary LED light kit, and it is currently retailing on Amazon for $105.99 or €119.99. And this is not a sponsored video. All opinions I present here are my own and I always try to be unbiased, but I have to say that Zero reached out to me and offered me a free copy of this set to review, and I agreed on it out of curiosity, and as I thought it would be interesting to compare this set and the genuine Lego products in that same price range. First, let's do a little comparison and then we'll move on to Zero Botanical Garden review. Okay, so let's check what Lego sets you can buy in this same price range. I think that for this comparison, to be fair, we'd have to consider rather non-licensed sets, as the license such as Star Wars, Jurassic World, Marvel, etc. always bumps up the price. Ideally sets without minifigures, as this Zero set doesn't have any either, and that leaves us mainly with in-house Lego teams like Creator Expert or Architecture. What's a bit unusual is the fact that the price for the Zero set is higher in euros than it is in dollars, at least judging by exchange rates these days, and it makes this comparison more tricky. But I've selected some Lego sets that I think are the most representative examples for the purpose of this comparison. Okay, so for $119.99 you could have any of the Lego art sets, and even though they contain of mostly 1x1s, they have higher piece count of above 3,100 pieces. Paying that same amount would get you Lego NASA Apollo Saturn V. It has only about 200 pieces less than the Zero set, but you're getting 2 micro figures with it. Alternatively, you could spend your €119.99 to get the iconic London bus, though it comes with roughly 500 pieces less than the Botanical Garden. Now, let's talk about the Lego set I think is the most representative example. For €100 or $120 you could get this Lego Architecture Taj Mahal released earlier this year. It has almost that same size. It comes with only 100 pieces less than the Botanical Garden. However, do remember the Botanical Garden comes with a complementary LED light kit, and these tend to be costly. Lego doesn't have them among their product base, but there are several third-party companies offering these. For the Taj Mahal set, the LED light kit alone would set you back another $47, which is roughly about €40 plus shipping. And here in this Zero set you don't have to pay a cent extra for it. I'd say it all makes this Zero set rather fairly priced and something worth your consideration if you're not bent on buying only genuine LEGO sets. And by the way, I recently did a poll on my Instagram and asked there, have you ever considered buying sets from brands other than LEGO? And 54% of my followers said yes. It means for most people, buying an interesting product in a good price may be more important than the strict loyalty to the LEGO brand. Okay, so let's move on to my review of the Botanical Garden by Zero. This is how the box looks. First off, it is much smaller than I expected for a set on this piece count, as any LEGO set with over 2000 elements would be 3-4 times bigger than this one, and it seemed more eco-friendly to me at first, as smaller box means less carbon emission while shipping. But inside this box there were more plastic bags I've ever seen in any set. There were bags inside bags inside bags, and the largest ones were Ziplocs with numbers on them, and I have to say it had its pros and cons. Cons were, of course, the amount of excessive plastic, but bags were better organized from the start and better than they are in LEGO sets, and it made the building go smoother. Second, I have to say this is not the most aesthetically pleasing box art I've ever seen. It seems crowded and a bit basic. I think if it looked more like current LEGO 18 plus sets with simple black background or something like that, it would be much more appealing, and I feel the target audience is similar here as it's a big complex model. The quality of the front print isn't as good. It seems a bit bleak, but the back looks better. You have a close-up on some details of the model there too. Don't be discouraged by the box quality though, as it really doesn't represent what this set has to offer. Instructions are in the form of a booklet. They are clear. There's an overview of all parts needed for each step, just as in LEGO ones, but there are a bit different outlines as for what goes where. It didn't give me much trouble while building. What is interesting is the fact you're getting a $20 Amazon gift card inside, and it is redeemable if you add your Amazon review after purchase, and apart from that they have a discount program card with up to 15% of ongoing discount from your third purchase, and I think that's a really nice marketing move. This is how the completed model looks. As you can see, it's a big thing and it does look impressive. However, for me it doesn't look like a set containing of over 2100 pieces, and this is due to the fact it packs a lot of details inside. You can see them through these big bottle-like transparent panels, but there is no way to access them once you build this set, but I'll circle back to that. The building process starts with the base plate. You're basically tiling the entire 32 by 32 base plate, creating interesting geometrical patterns on the floor level and leaving just few exposed studs on which you'll be attaching the entire building later. I have to say these floors look great, but building them was just a little boring. For example, the first 8 pages of instructions were just all grey tiles and grey plates, and sadly this feeling of repetitiveness was stuck with me through the entire time I was building this set, and this is not due to this set being poorly designed or anything like that. It is a very solid build. It has plenty of details and some techniques used here are really interesting. This is strictly due to how the building process was designed or how the instructions are constructed, if you will. Whenever LEGO is launching a new product, they are putting a strong emphasis on customer's experience, and it's really multidimensional. You can see it in product marketing. For example, look at 18 plus sets. The marketing team in Billund is doing what they can to appeal to adult customers, their passions and aesthetics. They're presenting building Lego sets as a way to relax, unwind and bring some mindfulness into your life, etc. Then the box is designed to build up your expectations, and then you're treated with a curated and diverse building experience due to instructions design. There's rarely any dull moment. You're building a little here, just a little there. You may not know at times what exactly you're building or how it should work later in a completed model, and you're discovering it while building. It's just very exciting, quite moving even, and very pleasurable. Here you have a gorgeous looking product, but building it was just building, nothing else. Or maybe if you like model craft kits, you'll enjoy building this set very much. And there's plenty to be built here. On the floor level of our botanical garden, there are 4 very different corner sections, and they are just lovely. We have a little florist corner with different flowers in pots, a wrapping paper stand, scissors and such, a cute table and the marquise. Second is a little kitchen corner or a cafe with a beautifully built sink, a cabinet with coffee maker and a little trash can below, and this round table with flowers and 2 seats. Another one is a flower garden, and by the way, it used a lot of various plant pieces, which is great. And the last one is this pretty fountain and some pond with water plants and a green frog. It's all very detailed, very colorful, and it uses a great variety of parts, and those little models inside were quite fun to build. They all look very playable, and I imagine putting there some minifigures and giving them a very fun, full of adventures day in the botanical garden and taking tons of photos of them while at it. Sadly, as I've mentioned, there is no way to access the inside of this model, as you'd have to tear all its walls down completely, and this is such a pity. And in the middle of that you have a big cross-shaped section. Near the front and back entrances there are big tan-like columns built in different styles, and big flower pots stand near each. From the inside, at the end of opposite arms of that cross, you can find little buildable trees and benches. Again, it's all very inviting. It's just a shame you can't really access that area once you build it. And at the center there's a big tree in kinda reddish brown with white and pink leaves, and it all reminds me of a cherry blossom tree. Building it was quite a challenge, and aligning it correctly so it would fit inside the wall structures was even more so, but it looks really great, and you can pick up a thing or two as for tree techniques from building it. The upper part is a glass roof with ornaments, decorative elements and such. Building it wasn't too exciting, but it looks very nice from the outside, and you can take it off as it's attached to just few studs with tiles all over, so you know, something like in classic Lego modular buildings, and it allows you to take a look inside the botanical garden. There are plenty of decorative elements on the outside too. We have some lamps and lanterns. There are nice pergola-like details all over the building, some arches and such, plus there's this white tile with a printed name of the set above the entrance, and of course there's a lot of interesting glass structures all around. And as we're looking at that area, there's something interesting and not to be found in Lego sets, and that is this side pergola-like 1x1 ornament which was attached on a neck bracket, and then this to a headlight brick, which created a tiny gap between this element and an arch nearby. And this is 100% illegal technique, as an intentional gap and stressing elements like that is something that could never happen in any modern Lego set. It's not that I mind it a lot, the model won't collapse, implode or anything like that because of it, but I think it's a very interesting difference between LEGO and Zero products. And I have to say, this set comes with a huge selection of spares. There's a lot of them, they are varied, I really can't complain here. Now let's talk about main differences in quality and properties of elements produced by LEGO and by Zero. I was really positively surprised by good quality of Zero elements. They are very solid, well made, they won't become distorted with use over time, it's a very high quality product. Yes, there are some scratches on smooth surfaces like tiles and such, but I don't think it's worse than LEGO these days. 15 or 20 years ago that would have been unthinkable of LEGO products, but if you bought any sets within the last few years, you know that there are some scratches to be found on your elements. What is a bit different is the overall feel you get from Zero bricks. The plastic they use is a bit harder, I'd say, and there are no letters on studs, plus edges of bricks and these so-called anti-studs are just a fraction of a millimeter thicker than the ones LEGO make, and these two factors combined have huge consequences. There's a bit different feel when you're pinning Zero bricks. Moreover, pinning bricks together is just harder. They are sticking together stronger and you have to put more strength while you're attaching your elements together, and due to that, honestly, after some building my fingertips hurt, but that's not only the matter of discomfort, it is very important to the building process. There were times when attaching two segments of the model together was a challenge, as some delicate elements like these side black columns with arches between big transclear wall panels didn't really fit that well, and I spent a lot of time on those while getting impatient, let's say. Finally, I gave up on some and didn't completely attach them, as I'd have to take half of the build down to fix it, and that was definitely annoying here and something that LEGO does better. And I think it doesn't work as it should just because the original model was a mock built with LEGO bricks and elements, which, as we've just established, are slightly thinner and pin easier than Zero ones, and yet here in this botanical garden the model's design remained mostly unchanged despite these differences, and as a result of that, not every technique works here as well as it would if you'd built it out of LEGO bricks. Alas, let's compare some elements that came in this set with their LEGO equivalents. Most are almost indistinguishable, like snot bricks, masonry bricks, and there were quite a lot of these in the botanical garden, or plant elements, though they had a different feel to them as they were made from hard plastic, not a plant-based one as LEGO makes them these days, but others are delightfully different, like these 2x2 tiles with studs which have a square outline, or a brick separator. And I do feel that making elements slightly different and making them original is the way to do things if you'd like to compete with LEGO on this demanding market. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is this LED light kit I was mentioning, and before I will start talking about it, let me just show you how it works and looks. You have 4 strips which you place around the roof on level 0 and on level 1, and you pin them together on these red and black wires and then connect them to a battery box for 3 AAA small batteries. And I must say, attaching these lights to the model was a challenge, especially on level 0, and I have spent a lot of time on this as you have very little space to operate there, but after you light it up, this looks absolutely magnificent and beautiful, and it adds so much as for value of this set and for its displayability. So even if I didn't always enjoy building this set as much as I would a Lego one, the view of this set all lit up definitely makes up for it. Okay, so to briefly sum up this Zero Botanical Garden set. If you have an open mind and you want to try out something a little different than Lego and you still love your bricks, I can honestly say that Zero is a very solid recommendation. Quality of elements they produce is great, though pinning them is harder and more difficult. Most importantly, they don't shamelessly steal designs like many other Lego clone companies do. They have quite competitive prices if you look at the piece count and the fact that you're getting an LED light kit, though if you don't care much for a fancy display system, there are some Lego products that contain a similar number of elements for a very similar price. The building process was different, but it's definitely worth to give it a try and see for yourself if it's something that you may enjoy. And it may surprise you in a very good way. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to help me out so the mythical YouTube algorithm would recognize my existence, you can always give me a thumbs up, leave a comment below, watch my videos from the beginning to the end and subscribe to my channel. But for now, thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you around. Bye! Second bloopers. Set shoe. Zaraz kliknę.